Avengers! Assemble.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Excelsior, the world's #1 Marvel's Avengers seasonal Spider-Man review series podcast. I'm your director, Christian Buckley, joined as always by the Apex legend, Jack Martin. How are you today?
Excelsior, Christian. I'm doing especially well today, considering we have quite the topic to discuss. I'm just very excited. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, fall is here. I got flannels and sweats on today. It feels wonderful out here in New England.
I'm wearing the exact same thing.
Oh man. Was it you or me? Or you and me or me and Mike? I remember one day we were recording in the studio back at school, and I think we both showed up wearing the exact same flannel.
Yeah, honestly, could have been any of us.
Yeah.
And that could have happened multiple times.
Oh, absolutely. I do remember one of the times all three of us were on a show there. We all showed up with flannels and jeans, and I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah. I think Pat even too.
Yeah, definitely.
Very fun.
I'm sure that happened like multiple times.
Well, this week, like you said, we got some exciting stuff to talk about. We compared it pre-recording to a elite 5-star restaurant where it's like, is this really all we're talking about? But you gotta savor the flavor, Jack. You know.
It's a tasty meal we're gonna have.
Absolutely. Before we get to the exciting stuff, though, and of course, what if in the back of this show, we got to get through the normal stuff, the Normie Furies report that we run through every week. This week, we're gonna start with the non-exciting thing. So, maybe this is exciting, actually. I'm looking forward to this. As of today, recording, as of today of when the show releases as well, so from September 30th to October 4th, Marvel's Avengers is running a Quad XP event. What does that mean, Jack? I failed math.
Sorry, what?
What
was that last?
I failed a math class in my life.
Okay. I'm right there with you, dude. I'm not a math guy.
Yeah.
Definitely not a math guy. So that means all the XP you get is multiplied by 4. So it's not double XP. It's not even triple XP. It's quad XP.
Hell yeah. That's the juiciest treat for us high-level players, you know?
Yeah, man. I was really excited when they announced this, and I still am, because I'm working on a 150 Thor right now.
Mm-hmm.
As well as, all that champion XP, which I think this is what is good for us and the people who already have the 150s, right? But I realize I'm doing stuff this weekend. I'm getting an Xbox. I'm picking up an Xbox this Sunday. So I'm going to try and find time to play because I want to get my Thor to 150 and get just a bunch of champion XP. Yeah. So we'll see. But this is good stuff.
Yeah, I started downloading an update for the game earlier today. A bunch of my friends have this game, Jack, and none of us have ever played together. So I'm hoping that maybe because of the XP event, I can sort of wrangle them into playing this weekend. But I'm right there with you. Like, my 150 Thor, I want him to be a beast. So when he gets nerfed, he's still strong, Like, I would like that to be the reality I live in. And the Quad XP event is going to do that for me, especially because the hero catalysts, the ×2 and ×3 hero catalysts, is that what they are?
Yeah, I believe you're right.
Okay.
2 or 3.
Those stack.
Or maybe 1.5 and 3.
You're correct. Actually, it might be 1.5 and 2.
Yeah, something like that.
Those stack on top of the additional Quad XP. So this is when my struggle with math actually comes in. Is this a 1.5 XP boost on top of it, so you're getting a 5.5? Or is this multiplying the 4?
I don't think it's multiplying the 4. Mm-hmm. I think it's... Remember we had those math equations a few weeks back?
Yes.
A couple months back, maybe?
That was last year, I think.
No way.
I think it was.
Okay, well, 5 years ago when we talked about that, and people were like, oh, that means it's like multiplying this base version, it's going to be crazy stats. And they were like, it's actually not that. It's additive rather than, the way you guys were thinking. Mm-hmm. I think it's probably that. Sure. I don't think it's going to be crazy, but it's still in addition to the already 4 times XP. So we're gonna be moving through these champion levels, hopefully.
Yeah, and honestly, as much as I want to level Thor, I think I might use this as an opportunity to get T'Challa to at least level 50 if he's not already. Because straight up, I have not played the game since I beat War for Wakanda, unless I logged in to buy a costume.
So. Yeah, I've been doing some challenges for Black Panther just for the challenge card, but and a little bit of Thor, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I got to get back on the grind. You know why?
Why is that?
In the shop right now, they're getting me with a 3rd Captain America skin that I need, Jack.
Dude, they keep doing it with these crazy good costumes and skins for this game.
It sucks because like they're really gonna get money out of me. And the funny thing is, I don't even main Cap. I like Cap's in the rotation, but he's like my 3rd choice. You know, right now in the shop they have the Nomad Captain America skin from Infinity War. How do you think this one looks?
This one looks great. It's the bearded Cap with the star ripped off his chest.
Mm-hmm.
It looks really good. I think this game has had issues with skins, particularly with hair, but I think this looks really accurate to the MCU counterpart. And obviously, like, it's based on the game's Captain America, but with the MCU skin on top of it. And with that knowledge, it looks good. And it has the MCU shield. And I saw like a little bit of people complaining that it wasn't like the battered shield that he had like post Civil War, or like I guess during Civil War. But I mean, it's the MCU shield. I love it to death. So I think this is a pretty much perfect skin.
That being said, are you going in on this?
I don't know. I'm with you with Cap because he's in the rotation. Like he's a 150 character for me, and I love playing as him. I got the endgame skin, right? Like I already have an MCU skin for him. I don't want to be greedy, but I'm certainly tempted.
Yeah, I got the endgame skin. I got the Avengers 1 skin just because I thought it was hilarious they put that thing in. I like this suit, like within the context of the MCU, I think more than both of those, just because it like this specific look for Cap does have a lot of significance behind it too, with his character. Where like the Endgame one is probably the most comic accurate they ever did, but I really really do love this roaming battered Captain America look. So might have to drop the credit card on this.
Yeah, it's a great look. I feel like Captain America might have the best MCU skins in this game so far.
Yeah.
I think he also might have the most.
I think he does now for sure, officially. Unless...
Yeah. Black Widow, maybe?
No, Widow has 2. Iron Man has 2. Most everybody else just has their Endgame skins. Black Panther has Civil War, Black Panther. So, yeah.
Yeah. So he definitely has the most, and not even including that, he just has the best, I think, so far. So
agreed.
That's great.
Well, you know what else is great?
What's that?
These players on the Xbox side of things that maybe they love Captain America, maybe they want this skin and they're like, damn, want the skin, but if I'm paying for a game, I don't want to pay for the outfit too. Microsoft has so generously taken that part out of the equation for you because as of today, Marvel's Avengers is now on Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, Windows PC, xCloud, through Gamepass. Wild.
What a crazy announcement.
Yeah.
Like, we have pondered the possibility of this coming to Game Pass, but I think we always stopped at fully believing it would because this was a Sony marketed game. Like, PlayStation is getting the exclusive Spider-Man character, and that kind of held us up, and this was on PlayStation Now for a little bit, and I think it was taken off. And I feel like that's sort of like dashed our dreams
Yeah.
and hopes potentially of this coming out. And this kind of just came out of nowhere. And this is awesome news. This is essentially free, like at no additional cost to Game Pass subscribers. So this is the easiest recommendation, where if you already have Game Pass and you're on Xbox, this is the number one game you should be playing. Like if you have nothing else on your plate and you really like Marvel and stuff like that, this is essentially a free game with a really great campaign. So this is amazing news.
Yeah, I'll go one further too. I know some people, the way they tackle subscribing to Game Pass is on a game by game basis. So like say when Forza Horizon 5 drops later this year, they're like, okay, now I'll sub for the month. If there's nothing on there right now, unless you're like a huge Bandai Namco fan and you want to play Scarlet Nexus like I just started this morning, like I say if you don't have Game Pass at the moment and you have an Xbox and you are a Marvel fan, absolutely sub for the month just to play through these campaigns, because it's probably, they say 25 hours total for the single player content right now. Realistically, probably 20 to 25 is accurate. Yeah, I think this is absolutely an easy recommendation, like you said. So if you're a Game Pass sub, if you have the ability to be a Game Pass sub, even if you're on PC, like if you don't have an Xbox, you can still do this. You can still play it through the cloud. There is no scenario where this does not help Avengers. And I'm glad you brought up the PS Now thing, because I know there are some defenders of PlayStation Now. Our good friend Kevin Diaz is a fan of PlayStation Now. Rightfully
A shill
so.
of PlayStation Now, did you say?
No, I said a defender, I believe. PlayStation Now is not even in the same country as Game Pass. Yeah. I think honestly Avengers coming to PlayStation Now was a bigger deal for PlayStation Now, and Avengers coming to Game Pass is a huge deal for Avengers, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel like the news when this came to PlayStation Now and quickly left was a fart in the wind. Like I don't think anyone really paid attention to it after the fact, but this is like anytime any game comes to Game Pass, it is a huge deal. I think for both the service and for Avengers, but you're right. I think the more important lens of looking at this is the player base of Marvel's Avengers is just going to grow exponentially, hopefully, because of Game Pass. Like that is treated like a service, because it is, and you just have that library of games, and you basically have Marvel's Avengers for free. And there's an upcoming raid, hopefully coming out soon, scheduled to come out soon, that is specifically multiplayer. And you're not going to have a difficult time finding friends to play with on Xbox, or random people even. So that's really good news. This is just incredible.
Yeah, and another great element, just like you're saying, in terms of playing with people, is they came out and said that there's no crossplay between the Steam version of the game, but if you're playing the game through, I believe, like the Windows Store purchase of it, or any version of Game Pass or xCloud, if you're playing on PC, you can play with the Xbox player base that are playing on console, on Xbox One and at the Series consoles. So, yeah, I think this will just... Honestly, this could maybe, I don't want to say save the game, but give it enough of a second win to maybe give us more confidence on riding out 2022 for content, and maybe even some 2023 stuff.
Yeah, I was considering whether this was like the Hail Mary for the game, and this is like its kind of last shot at boosting the player base. I don't think it's the last possible thing. I think that's still free to play.
Agreed.
But this is definitely a shot of adrenaline for the game, where like this is a second wind for sure. And it just completely grows the player base that it so desperately needs to grow. Still, though, I think it is hilarious that this keeps happening with Xbox. Like earlier this year, MLB The Show, which was historically a PlayStation exclusive developed by a first-party studio, and it still is, went to Xbox for the first time and also went to Game Pass. So like you could play a first party developed PlayStation game for free essentially on Xbox, which I will be doing soon. And that happened in a similar way with Marvel's Avengers, where PlayStation had like the marketing rights and there will be an exclusive character, but you can play the game for free on Xbox. I just think that's hilarious, and I think it is a little like, I don't even know how I feel about Spider-Man coming out in December and like so many new people you have to imagine getting the game and being really confused when they can't access Spider-Man.
So I'm glad you're bringing up that aspect of it with like the exclusivity, and if we look at it of like the sort of partnership that's going on here right now. This announcement came a few days after the initiative announced that Crystal Dynamics was joining their studio to develop Perfect Dark. So I've seen a lot of speculation and a lot of like, I don't know, this is all based off of nothing, just like gut feelings from literally everybody who's commented on this. But some people are speculating that maybe Crystal Dynamics and Microsoft are going to be sort of fostering a more long-term relationship, the way that, I won't say Bethesda, because Bethesda was a full-blown acquisition, but you know, the Xbox fans like throwing around acquisitions all the time in terms of speculation. This is the most recent one, but I do think because Marvel's Avengers, which was one of the best-selling games of last year, and that partnership to develop a first-party exclusive, there could be some stuff here that would lead to a future of collaboration, and if that is the case, I could easily see, obviously not this year, but maybe sometime next year, the Xbox player base maybe getting their own exclusive character for the game just to balance it out, you know, and maybe it would be a character that falls into a similar level of importance for Spider-Man, because you and I both talked about the idea that Spider-Man moving forward in the narrative probably is not going to be significant to the overall story of this Avengers project in like any way. So I could maybe see that Mad Lib blank filled in for them over there, just to have that, like the other character that's kind of just there and is just sort of not important to what's going on, you know?
Do you think this game going to Game Pass kind of highlights the fact that there is no crossplay yet? Because it seems like this is a really good boost for the player base on the Xbox side of things, but it doesn't increase that player base across all platforms. I feel like if crossplay was a thing, this would be great for the game in general, but as of right now, this is great on the Xbox side of things.
Yeah, I think you are correct. It's always been a bit of a bummer that Marvel's Avengers doesn't have crossplay and does not seem to have that in the cards for the near future. And a lot of people, like I've seen Paul Tassi speculate about this, cite Spider-Man as the reason for crossplay not being a thing, which makes sense, right? Like, it's kind of like why Nintendo was like, we don't want Samus in Fortnite because then she'll be on the PlayStation, you know? It's a weird thing that's holding this game back from maybe reaching a stronger presence in the world of multiplayer online services, but at this specific moment, I don't know how much crossplay would help the game, considering we're still kind of waiting for stuff to do together, you know? But I think you have a very fair, very real point.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. Like, there really is no substantive multiplayer content right now, so it doesn't really matter. But with something like the raid looming on the horizon, and you would imagine the player base probably this weekend will jump really high because it's on Game Pass and the Quad XP. Like, that is just obviously a really good plan that they put in place to just have that at the same time. You're getting this completely new player base, probably a lot of people jumping in and just leveling up their characters really quickly. Um, it would be nice, obviously, if there was crossplay, so that this crazy new audience on Xbox can join in with PlayStation and just makes the game, and PC players just makes the game that much better. It doesn't seem like that's going to be something that's soon. Like, that seems like a year two sort of thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
or I guess end of year two sort of thing, like 2022. But yeah, I feel like this kind of changes what I think about future content, like what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Now that it's on Game Pass, I feel like that is like, I don't know if that's the new target audience for this game, just because that's where your players are, you know?
That's what I was thinking, and that's kind of where I was leading with the Crystal Dynamics partnership. Because, like, yeah, year one, PlayStation gets Spider-Man, right? But if there's this move, if this move helps the player base stay healthy and stay ever growing, like if somebody gets an Xbox for the first time, they get Game Pass, they see this Marvel game, they're a casual fan or a hardcore Marvel fan that was waiting for the game to get good, which I think at this point it did. You have that very easy avenue for new players to hop into. And I feel like, as opposed to a Destiny or a Final Fantasy 14 or any other sort of living game, the barrier to entry for Avengers is like on the floor. Like, this game is not intimidating. There's no air of, am I behind? Because, like, maybe that's a byproduct of not a lot of content dropping, but the content that did drop is substantial, but it's not overwhelming, you know? So I do think that is good for the player base to grow in time. And I would not be surprised if, like you said, eventually the larger player base ends up being the Xbox ecosystem, because they just open that up to Game Pass subscribers, not just console Xbox owners, right? Like, you could play this on your phone right now and have an all right time with it, because the xCloud stuff, from my experience so far, is pretty solid. I want to try this on xCloud. I will report back next week if I can get some time in. But yeah, I think this could, like you said, lead to a road for more content and us as a community feeling a bit more confident in future content.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more it seems like this could be good just for the overall health of the game, not just for the Xbox side of things. Because, like, if Xbox players like eventually turn into like the main group that Crystal wants to focus on, like, it's not going to be just like Xbox exclusive content. It's going to be content for that everyone gets, and it just so happens that the Xbox players are the more fanatical group because the numbers would be so high. So yeah, I think this is really, really good stuff. I wish there was cross progression.
I know.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, dude. I hope they work that in at some point. I don't know how difficult that would be, because with Destiny, it's like your character is saved on a Bungie server. It's not tied to the PSN. It's not tied to your hard drive. It's on Bungie's end. And as we learned from the intricate PlayStation upgrade save transfer with this game, the save and your progression for Avengers is local. So unless they do some overhaul to have player individual progressions stored on a Crystal Dynamics server, I don't know how easy it would be for cross-play, cross-progression to work. Or not cross-play, but just cross-save and cross-progression. But yeah, I'm with you. The Series S is my next-gen console at the moment, and I would really love if I could just send my Thor over to there right now and just keep on playing at a actual locked frame rate rather than 60 most of the time on my Pro, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But hopefully they hear the people in the community that are talking about this. I'm sure they will, and maybe reorganize or reprioritize some of these things to actually be something we get in the near future if there is some migration or numbers do skyrocket. But yeah, overall, this might be the thing that changed the course of this game moving forward. And I think it's very cool that it came out so fast. That was like a 3-day turnaround almost.
Yeah, it's such a great surprise. I did not expect that at all. Right? Like we had the state of the game, which wasn't as dour as I was expecting, but it still wasn't like, I didn't come away from that super hyped. And it kind of seemed like 2022 was going to be it. Not that they said that, but, we just kind of assumed. Yeah, right. And with something like this is such a huge move, especially for keeping that player base and like building a player base. Anytime a game you can access it basically free. Obviously, like games like Fortnite are completely free, but this is the next best thing. When you have that, you're just breaking down those barriers that you said for the player base, for people to access. So this is really good for people who have been interested and want to play this, and honestly good for people like us who have been playing it since day one, and just are craving that higher player count. So awesome stuff.
Because you and I both play on PlayStation. From all accounts, PlayStation is the most active player base for the game right now. And yes, I do own an Xbox, but if things like started getting shifted towards an Xbox priority, or they cater to that audience more because it is growing and expanding, as a PlayStation fan, I wouldn't even be mad, because like that just means that this game that we all enjoy does hopefully get to live a little bit longer, and maybe get some more resources put into it, like we're talking about, a lot more characters beyond what they promised for next year, and fingers crossed, a second raid. That'd be excellent. But yeah, any other thoughts on the game hitting Game Pass?
The game just keeps, like, it's not going away. Like, there's always, I'm like surprised at how much news there always is for this game in like the best possible way. Mm-hmm. So it's not going away, which is great. I was thinking about Anthem today, and we're a year past this release, and this is definitely not an Anthem-like experience. Yeah. It is still being supported. And with news like this, you can kind of extrapolate that it's probably going to be supported for longer than we even expected. So this is good stuff.
When you said this game never goes away, I got a visual in my mind. This game is Steve Rogers, Jack. It keeps getting beaten down, maybe by itself, stands up. I could do this all day. Knocked down again, but they keep getting up, and very fitting. Maybe that's why Cap gets all the cool suits.
Do you think that Greg Miller's prediction with Imran Khan is going to come true? That, maybe not prediction, that by the end of this year, Marvel's Avengers is, it's okay. It's in a good spot.
Between the fact that we are getting a raid, and I fully believe in their promises, expectations, I think the raid will be probably the best piece of content in the game so far. Pairing that with this, I think by the end of this year, all of us can look at Avengers and be like, yeah, that game's good. It's okay.
Yeah. And Spidey.
Yeah, Spider-Man 2.
So there you go.
Speaking of the raid, we do have a few updates to run through quick, and future content as well. Crystal said, we're often asked if there are projects our team is working on that aren't on the roadmap. We can say now that one of those major projects was Xbox Game Pass. So,
I love that answer. That's they were essentially saying yes.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah. So, and that basically is them saying, so yes, we have other stuff that we're not talking about right now.
Crossplay.
Yeah.
You get.
Yeah.
I also think it's funny that, remember a couple weeks ago when we had the free weekend pre-War for Wakanda?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, PC, PlayStation, free weekend. Xbox players, TBD, things are happening in the background. We're figuring it out. They absolutely knew back then, right? They probably knew since the beginning of summer, honestly, in terms of getting this thing prepped. But
you'd have to imagine the conversation about this has been going on for months, if not longer. So
Now, Jack, when I say I believe the raid is going to be the best piece of content in the game so far, do you doubt me, or do you feel a certain way that would make you feel otherwise?
I mean, I would certainly hope it is. I'm very worried about this. Like this, if this comes out and this is like what we can think of for raids going forward, that could be like a huge flop. It makes me think of the Omega level threat where we got that. And it's like, oh man, this is not it. So I'm hoping it's not like that, but I think it definitely has that potential where like this could be the most meaningful piece of content. So yeah, I don't know if it will be, but it certainly has that potential.
Yeah, I think it can, and it could honestly help sort of redefine Avengers as being that service game that they pitched it as, because the raid is the reason to play with friends. So the other update this week, they did give an update on the Claw raid. It's continuing along with internal playtesting of the multiple puzzles, which is very exciting for me as somebody who has watched some Destiny raids, as somebody who played the Ghost of Tsushima raid. The puzzles that can be mustered up by a development team in a raid setting are so creative because they know the type of player who is playing the raid. They, not that they would talk down to their player base otherwise, but they know that there is a certain level of understanding of the mechanics of the rules of the game, that they can really design things that you see nowhere else. Like, for example, in Ghost of Tsushima, there's a raid puzzle where you spawn in this very wide open environment. It sort of looks like a rice farm almost in this beautifully designed world. And there's these like egg sacs across the field, and you spawn with your team, and then waves and waves of enemies just keep on coming to you. And you're trying to figure out, how do we progress here? Eventually, maybe you kill one of these enemies next to an egg, and you see that a certain enemy death near the egg will cause the egg to break, and you have to do that to find a specific item in one of the eggs. So like nothing like that is in normal Ghost of Tsushima. You can attest to that, correct?
Oh yeah, I have no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, so like when they say multiple puzzles, when I know Crystal Dynamics has a history with like Tomb Raider games, I'm hopeful because the raid will allow for more creative puzzles than stand on this button pressure plate in this order to continue moving forward. Like you're saying, it could just be that, but the opportunity to design a raid on that higher level makes me hopeful that multiple puzzles does mean this is content that is only here because it wouldn't make sense in other places in the game.
Right. It's funny that you mentioned like watching Destiny raids because I've watched like Achievement Hunter back in the day do Destiny 2 raids, and I really liked when I could not tell you the raid, but like the team was split up in two different locations. One team saw like certain symbols and the other team had to shoot certain symbols. So those are the kind of puzzles that I'm thinking of where like you couldn't play the raid if you couldn't communicate with your team. Like that's kind of what I'm hoping for puzzles that require you to sort of think and communicate with your team.
Yeah, dude, and that just fosters some of the best multiplayer moments, I think, because like you said about Destiny, it's really well designed, and I have yet to experience it. That's like on my bucket list. I need to do that. But when I was able to do the Ghost raid, I spent like an entire... Ghost came out last year, right?
Yep.
Okay, so over like the Christmas season, I spent probably like a week straight logging on at 9 at night, playing until like 1 or 2 in the morning with my group of friends, trying to figure out the puzzles and progress through the raid. So like, it's great when it works. So I'm glad they're taking their time with it. I'm glad they're doing extensive testing, and the puzzles has me very hopeful. So expectations are high.
Definitely. Quick update. Did you see the quote about the Spider-Man event featuring cutscenes?
I did, yeah. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, for me, like it didn't really give me anything like too substantial. People were wondering like, hey, why? And we were wondering like, why is it marketed as an event rather than like a regular character drop that we've seen for the other characters. And Crystal basically said there's going to be, like any other character drop, there's going to be like cutscenes and things like that. So, like, don't worry, essentially. I'm still thinking it's going to be like a little bit less meaty than maybe like a Hawkeye or Kate Bishop or something like that. But yeah, it was interesting that they made that clarification.
Yeah, because I think after the roadmap came out, we weren't alone in being like, so they initially said event, and they're saying event again. What does that mean in the context of the game? Because I don't think they've used the event specific label for anything beyond like the Tachyon Anomaly event or the Cosmic Cube event. So like, what does that mean in relation to a character? I believe the clarification was given out on either a dev stream last week or in the official Avengers Discord. So, yeah, fair to expect some cutscenes, definitely going to have some voice direction. Do you think Spider-Man will have at least one scene with more than one of the Avengers?
Yeah, I think he talked to like I don't know. He definitely, I feel like he'll have interactions with characters, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'll probably be on the lines of what we saw for like the Monica villain sector, where they're all like talking around like the war table or whatever. I think that's probably what we're gonna get.
Sure. I would really hope that, like, respect to Crystal, because they really, I feel, prioritize Captain America as being the leader of the team because he's supposed to be. Where the movies definitely took their time to get there, and even in the end, it was kind of like 50-50. I think that with their take on Cap, I would love to see him introduce this version of Spider-Man to all of us, sort of like how he had that presence with Kate in her expansion. So I'd really like to see him and Spidey, maybe more than Tony and Spidey at this point, because Tony in the game is like a very different Tony Stark than the world is used to, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So at least we get some cutscenes out of it, you know?
Yeah, I'm still thinking they're going to be on the smaller side compared to what we've seen for like Hawkeye and Kate Bishop, but because like, again, I don't think you can really alienate, especially with such a big influx of players coming on Xbox. I don't think you can alienate all of those with like the same level of scale that we had. I think this will probably be like an hour-long event, with like a cutscene or two.
You know how you offset that, though, to make it a bigger deal?
Daredevil, Xbox.
No, I was going to say you cast Tobey Maguire to voice this character, who's probably going to have a grand total of 10 minutes worth of dialogue.
Oh, dude, you're really shooting for that. I don't think you're going to get it. And if you do, I'm going to... I'll send you a pizza. I'll send you a pizza if Tobey Maguire is Spider-Man.
I can't not try and believe, you know?
Sure. I mean, that'd be amazing. That'd be absolutely amazing.
Yeah. And I think that would make it worth the wait, you know?
Sure.
Get that nasally, monotone Spidey voice in a video game.
Oh, that'd be so good. I want it back.
I do too.
Playing Spider-Man 2? Oh, man. Good stuff.
Hell yeah. Well, meanwhile, Jack, got some other stuff going on in the greater Marvel world. Not too much. Venom Let There Be Carnage has released as of tonight. For those who are curious, following along our Spider-Man review, the Venom Let There Be Carnage review will be posting sometime in the first half of next week. Normal episodes go up Saturday. We did a similar thing for Shang-Chi, so look forward to the Venom 2 discussion probably early the following week. As of right now, though, at an average score of 5.7 out of 10, it's 69% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Nice.
Did you look into any of the impressions for this movie?
Yeah, I've listened to a couple people's reviews. Let me tell you, Christian, not surprised. Not surprised in the slightest. Kind of what I'm expecting. I feel like everyone was expecting this. But yeah.
I saw a Entertainment Weekly tweet earlier today that was summarizing sort of a consensus about the movie, right? I'd like to read it out to you real quick. Critics are piling on the carnage atop Tom Hardy's Venom sequel, calling it, quote, a ridiculous mess and a porn tentacle fest that feels like the mold in the Avengers shower. If that isn't the best goddamn way to sell a Venom movie, Jack, what is?
Wow. That's incredibly hyperbolic. I don't think people are being that negative to this movie. But man, that's a sling of words I would have never thought to find in Entertainment Weekly. So that's good stuff. Dude, I really think this will be just like really stupid fun. And I'm hoping it will be like that, because the first one for me wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like they are really doubling down on like the more fun aspects of Venom's character. So if it ends up just being like a really stupid movie but a fun time, that's good.
Yeah, man, I cannot wait for this. That I read that and I was like, let's fucking go. Like, yeah, that's exactly what I want out of this. Oh man, the mold in the Avengers shower. That's Venom.
Yeah. Yep. And it's in the shower. It's in the helicarrier, right?
Yeah.
It's part of it. Now, people are freaking out over the like mid-credits scene.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. Has this been spoiled for you?
I think like this, the credit scene is the thing that leaked. I didn't see it, but I did see a text description of one aspect of it.
Okay. I was gonna have us offer our guesses, okay, but you might know.
I would like to hear your guess. Whatever you say, I will respond. Cool. Exactly like that.
Okay. All right, sweet. Genuinely think that Tom Hardy will be like... Here's the scene. He's in his apartment with Venom. He's icing his head after the fight with Carnage. And he turns on the TV and Peter Parker like reveals himself, or gets revealed to the general public. Like, I think this is an MCU tying event.
Cool.
So that's my guess.
I think last week we talked about that a little bit, right? And I think that was before I heard anything, and I was in line with you. I think that would be fun. But
yeah, I didn't know if they were gonna do that at the end of this movie, but now that people are freaking out about it, and it is probably hyperbole, and it might be set up for like another Venom sequel with some other villain. But if people are freaking out about it this much, I think it might be that. But people also freaked out about the Shang-Chi end credit scene, which was good, but not worthy of... People were like, this is the best one ever. And it's like, no, get over yourself. So it might be the same here. But I'm thinking we might get an MCU connection.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I did find another very interesting quote regarding Venom. Apparently... Tom Hardy, Andy Serkis, they've been giving like a lot of interviews just because the movie's releasing, right? And in one of them, I don't have the exact one, but Tom Hardy said he's deeply invested in the success of Marvel and their films, and that was his word. So
interesting.
Yeah,
I like that Tom Hardy, so I hope to see him more.
I like that he clearly loves this character.
Oh yeah,
I think I think it's fun. I think he's having a blast. He's getting paid. And if he can just be a goofball dumbass and be this cool, cheesy relic of an anti-hero superhero, hell yeah, dude. Keep making them. Why not?
I think it'd be really funny to see him and Deadpool square up.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, you know, the convergence is almost upon us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that'd be funny.
That would be fun. Yeah. I'm excited to see where Venom goes. I hope we get at least a third, if not more appearances from him. But
I'm sure we will. I'm seeing this by myself again.
Mm-hmm.
I figured I might as well just replicate what happened to me last time. Dude, I will not be surprised if a light fixture falls or the screen tears or something. Like, I'm kind of going in with that expectation. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, Yeah, I think I am going with Omar because I saw the original one with him. And, oh, I almost forgot. I think we talked about this last week, but worth reiterating. Marshall Mathers is writing the end credits song. He wrote it. It's done, but it's there. We're
Yeah.
gifted with a second Eminem song themed around Venom.
Yeah. Man, we texted about this. They really doubled down. They're
They
like,
did.
you know what? We weren't. I don't think they were. You think that they were? They knew, like they knew it was all about the 2000s vibes.
Mhm.
I don't think that was intentional. It is certainly intentional now. They're like, you know what? It's not a joke anymore. We're serious. This is it.
If I can amend that statement from last week, I think they knew in post.
Yeah, sure. In the
So,
editing room,
Yeah.
cue George Lucas saying, "I think we might have gone a little bit far in a few places."
Yeah, exactly. So,
Sure.
one other fun piece of news. In 2022, too late for me because I'm making my trip down there soonish. Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, the new roller coaster that has scenes shot by James Gunn and the cast of the Guardians of the Galaxy, is coming to Disney World, and they have announced it officially.
That's cool, man. Do they have Avengers Campus on Disney World right now?
They don't because there's a agreement contract in terms of
Right.
Avengers or like specifically Avengers themed and Avengers characters themed attractions. Universal is the only theme park in Florida that can do that.
That's
So
wild.
Disney World cannot get Avengers Campus. It can't get an Avengers ride. It can't get Spider-Man, Hulk. But the Guardians of the Galaxy are not the Avengers. So that's why Disney World is getting Guardians.
That is absolutely hilarious, but also sad because that is in the global aspect of things. That is our local Disney World
Yeah.
or Disney theme park. So it's very sad, but yeah, I mean, it's cool that this coaster's coming, and maybe eventually, like, rights get shifted, and
Sure.
Disney can have that park. And I'm sure this is being placed in a position where they're like, you know what, if we get that Avengers Land, we can park this squarely next to the Avatar's Pandora, right in between Pandora and the Star Wars Land.
I bet you're right. I know the park that it's actually being built in at the moment because they've been building it all this year. I was hoping that it would be done by like the holidays for me, but it is in Epcot, so
Yeah.
gonna have a good old time seeing the construction zone when I'm there.
Yeah. Let me know if it's next to France or
Sure.
what country it happens to be next to.
Absolutely. Well, Jack, with all that, we have come to the what if discussion for the week. We got Marvel's What If. I didn't write down the official name, but I wrote Visualtron.
Mm-hmm.
I did my
That's
best.
good. I like it.
I've seen some pretty positive thoughts amongst the online communities on this one. I want to hear what you thought.
I also liked this. I feel like it's been forever since we got like a good What If episode. And this is one of those examples where this show took a really good scenario of what if Ultron won. As soon as I saw that title, I was like, I'm in. Like, that is a good scenario to start your story on. And I feel like they really capitalize in on that and have a really interesting take, not only on that scenario itself, but also heavily featuring Black Widow and Hawkeye, who we always hear that they were like, they're really close and the best of friends, and we see that every now and then, but I feel like we got 20 minutes here of them just really being close with each other. And I think that was a really great part of the episode. But overall, even aside from the like the overarching implications of this episode, I think at a base level, this is a really good What If episode. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I'll even say that in terms of what if iterating on the MCU, which we've seen a couple times so far in terms of like, hey, would this have been just a better scenario, or was something in this episode of What If done better than in the MCU? I think this just makes me more upset about just because it's good. Because it makes me upset about the way Ultron was treated in the MCU, because I like Ultron. I know you have your feelings about Robert California, James Spader.
Yep.
But I genuinely think Ultron is a really solid, underrated villain in the MCU, and is a very interesting precursor to Thanos, because they have very similar ideologies. Like, it kind of sucks that Ultron was never built up in the MCU, and seeing the way they handle Ultron and the build up and everything here makes me like left longing for things that could have been, you know. I know Phase 2 sort of kind of throws a hint out there with like, oh, Tony's making suits that can function on their own with Iron Man 3, but like I feel like a lot of people didn't even pick up on that until after the fact of Ultron releasing. At least I didn't, but I liked it though. Good episode. You want to get into spoilers?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, you go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, like, your feelings of like sort of wanting more from the MCU. I feel like that's from Vision or from Ultron. I feel like that is a good sign of a what if episode, or a good what if episode. Being like, oh man, in some ways I kind of wish this was how things went, or I wish the MCU borrowed certain aspects of this story and implemented that in like the canon of what we're working with. So yeah, man, the fact that Star Wars Visions is out, and I really enjoy the first few episodes I've seen. Mm-hmm. I kind of wish this series just came out all at once, because I think it's been very detrimental to have these what if scenarios trickle out, in a lot of them not hit, and it just makes that wait even worse. Where I came into this week being like, wow, I forgot there was a what if episode, and it ended up being a really good episode.
Yeah, I agree with you. I typically am someone who does like the week to week thing, even with some Netflix shows. If there's a full drop, I'll try and spread it out a little bit. Visions, I've been doing that also, where I've only watched the first 4 episodes, but for the most part so far, I feel like Visions has kind of been all killer, no filler. I know people might not like the Tatooine Rhapsody episode, but I thought it was charming.
Oh, I like that one.
I'm glad. That warms my heart.
That's like capital A anime, and I've been watching them all, or the first 3 I've been watching them like subbed, so I've been watching the Japanese version, and I was like, wow, this is just like a straight up anime episode. It's awesome.
Wait till you watch episode 4, Jack. I'll be shocked if 4 gets topped.
Is that the 9th Jedi?
No, episode 4 is the Village Bride.
All right, sweet.
That was very good. But yeah, I think you make a good point where maybe it would be a little more lost in the mix of things, because What If has a sort of homogenous style to it, but Visions does play around with the genre of anime and art styles with every episode. So maybe that could be a detractor, but you would hope the concepts are good enough to stand on their own every week, all at once, that you would remember the ones that are good, the way that people seem to be doing with Visions right now. And I think this would be one that stands out among all the others. And we can get to ranking in a bit, but like I personally think, based off of everything, it is one of these stronger episodes, and does throw some wrenches in things and our understandings of actual canon MCU stuff. Like I've seen a lot of people wondering if He Who Remains was like lying about some stuff now, sort of bending our perception of the Watcher in this episode as well. Like I think it throws a lot of things at us as a penultimate episode that work well for the MCU, in addition to being like, hey, look how cool Ultron could have been, guys. Like, there's a lot going on in this episode, I think.
Yeah, and even if this wasn't like set up for the crazy battle I'm sure we're about to get in the next episode, everything that just happens like on the ground of this episode, so to say, is, I think, some of the best stuff we've seen from the show.
Yeah. Do you enjoy the new look of Ultron? Do you like the Vision hybrid suit of armor thing? Because I'm kind of into it.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I loved like the immediate killing of Thanos and him just being like, "Oh, that's interesting. Thanks for that idea." And then
Hmm.
he just, puts on his suit, and then of course, as he flies in the air, he throws a cape on because of course.
Hmm.
So yeah, big fan of that.
Yeah, I really like it. Like we've been talking about, it just plays with the MCU and our expectations and already established feelings in a way that I wish every episode of What If does. Um, what did you think of the thing with the Watcher? Like, did that surprise you? Do you have warped perceptions? Are you questioning things that we've come to take as fact at the moment, like some people on the internet are?
Not really. Like we kind of had the impression that he like had the ability to just watch over different universes and things. Um, and was kind of just like the narrator through this, and um, like it seemed across each episode, it seems like he was getting more and more involved, or like thinking about getting more and more involved. So the fact that he was like on the brink of telling Hawkeye where the thing was, and now he is at the end of this certainly involved with Doctor Strange. I wasn't super surprised by that. It seems like we were kind of being thread that throughout the series. So, and I don't really think it breaks anything in terms of MCU logic. I know we need some more explanations for the multiverse and like what happened with Loki and all that. So I don't think right now that really kind of messes with anything.
Yeah, I did see something that made me question um, the powers that be in this Easter egg that I'm sure you saw. There is that moment with the Watcher and Ultron like crashing through the different dimensions where
Oh yeah,
in the background they absolutely go through Mustafar.
yeah, and Felicia.
I didn't even notice that one, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Damn. Jeez. Okay, so yeah. Um, we don't have to get into that, but like, I don't want to see a
No,
Marvel Star Wars crossover in any capacity.
I think that's more of a visual nod
uh,
than
yeah,
the Watcher and Vision actually going through Mustafar.
I would hope. I mean, Marvel publishes a lot of those Star Wars comics, so
Patton
who's to
Oswalt's
say?
dream in Parks and Rec cannot come true. That can simply not come true. So I hope that doesn't happen.
If it does, it better be when we're long gone, because I don't want that.
Yeah,
I don't want to experience that.
it's sad because like that would have been like that would have been like an early 2000s thing when like Marvel was running out of money. They're like, I
Hmm.
don't know, let's just do this. So I hope that never happens.
Yeah, here's hoping. Well, is there anything left unsaid about the specifics of the episode, or would you like to get into the ranking discussion now?
Let's get into the ranking. I think this should be an interesting one.
Yeah, so out the gate, I think it's at least top three.
Yeah, I was saying in my head I was thinking that it was hovering somewhere near the Black Panther Guardians episode.
Okay, so as a refresher, I can run through our ranking as it stands.
Sure.
Um, Last place, we have Killmonger meets Tony. Sixth place is Party Thor. Fifth place is Captain Carter. Fourth place is Doctor Strange kills everybody. Third place is Zombies. Second place is the Avengers Fury Murder Mystery. And first place is T'Challa Star Lord.
Ooh. Ooh. Oh man. So you're thinking this is better than the Nick Fury episode?
I'm thinking it's for sure better than. Well, maybe not for sure, but I think it's stronger in terms of taking the what if idea
Yeah.
than Zombies is.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you.
So
I'm
it's
with
at
you.
least third. When it comes to supplying new things, like I think it's also doing more with the what if idea than the Fury episode, even though I think the Fury episode is a bit more fun of a concept. I think this episode had a lot more interesting stuff, so I would also say it's at least second.
Okay.
How do
Ooh.
you feel about putting it above the T'Challa Star Lord episode?
I don't know. I don't know if I would.
Okay.
I don't. Although
I
I
don't
feel
think I
like
would,
this.
but go
Yeah,
ahead.
like I don't know if I would. I feel like this might have the best concept. Well, I don't know. I guess Black Panther has a really T'Challa as Star Lord is a really good concept. That it's one of those ones where no one thought of it, but it just ends up being such a cool, interesting concept. Where this one is more of a standard. Oh yeah, what if this? What if X villain won? Um, but that's just a solid concept for a what if episode and ended up being really great. I would say two or three. I would say two or three. I could be convinced for two.
I I think second place is good
Yeah.
because I do love that Fury episode like a lot. But it kind of does have some of the pitfalls of some of our least favorite episodes in terms of like not maybe doing enough or not having a great wrap up and like throwing out a weird cliffhanger. Um,
It's also MCU touristy. Like it goes
mhm,
around to a lot of places. Like it's during that 1 week, so we see a lot of scenes that we've already seen before,
yeah.
and
Hmm.
it's like some of the what if episodes that we don't like are the ones that are a little too samey to some of the MCU stuff, and this feels completely new. So I do appreciate that about this.
Yeah, I agree. So I think second place is strong. We could revise things after next week after we have a whole comprehensive view of the series, but as it stands, the top three are Fury in third place, second place is Ultron, and first place is T'Challa Star Lord.
Sweet.
So, before we wrap up, I want to ask you this because there is a report going around that the final episode has a post-credit scene.
Mm.
If you had to take a guess, what do you think this is? Because I've seen some wild theories about some live action stuff, but what do you
Yeah.
think we get out of a post credit scene for this
I've
show?
seen people. Yeah, I've seen people speculate about live action. I don't think we're gonna get that. I really think this will just be a setup for season 2. Like the Watcher will throw on his Ray Bans and be like, "All right, let's go do some cool shit," and then that's the kicker for this and the setup to season 2. I think that's what we're getting. I don't think we get like anything like groundbreaking or revolutionary. It's like, oh man, this show that was supposed to be fun is now like super connected to the MCU, like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be pretty revolutionary. I think it's just going to be a little teaser for season 2. What about you?
I think either Doctor Strange or the Watcher will comment on the moment of the timeline being released by Sylvie. I think they'll be like, hey, something's going on in a different multiverse, and they'll feel that, and then maybe a hint of a element of Doctor Strange 2, like
Mm,
from this universe's Doctor Strange.
okay.
Being like, oh, I'd hate to be that other me, or something like
Yeah.
that.
All
So,
right. Interesting.
yeah. Because as far as we know, it's all canon. So why
Yeah.
not
Mm-hmm.
tee it up? Well, uh, wonderful episode of What If. Wonderful discussion, Jack, as always. Where can the agents of Excelsior find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Fascinated Jack. And you know what? I said I was getting my Xbox Series X soon. You can also add me on Xbox at Fascinated Jack. I did a weird workaround because the new Xbox system doesn't allow you to have names with characters over 12
Mm-hmm.
characters.
Mm-hmm.
And the for some reason you can go back on the Xbox 360 and add characters up to 15 characters for your
Mm-hmm.
name. So I went back and changed my old middle school outdated name to Fascinated Jack. So you can also find me on Xbox at Fascinated Jack. What about you, Christian?
Genius level moves right there. That is to be accommodated. That is fantastic.
I've been sitting on that for a little bit. Like I knew that was a thing that I
Mhm.
read about. So happy to have employed it.
Fantastic. If you want to follow me on anything, it's at Shun2D2 on Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, youtube.com/joyclicks for the video version of Excelsior every Saturday, and audio services if you want to listen to the audio version of the show, because podcasts are long and audio versions are practical. You can check it out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, whatever your favorite service is. Rating and reviewing on your service, if you can give it a rating or reviewing, would help the show out a ton, and we would appreciate it. And if you'd like to support the show on a monetary level, patreon.com/joyclicks at the $1 and $5 tiers. You'll be able to get producer credit for every podcast we do, like this show, much like Aaron Easton and Charles Applin do. Thank you very much. And that's going to do it for this week's Excelsior. As a reminder, the Spider-Man review season continues on a bonus episode releasing early this week. We'll be back next Saturday with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1 and maybe some Avengers on xCloud thoughts. So look forward to that. But until then, Excelsior.
Excelsior.